prioritization of things within work and home for us and for me has been a journey. It's been one where at one point in my career and in my life, everything at home would sacrifice for everything at work. And then I found that the results of that weren't helpful. So what I've come to now is that we really get ahead at home and start to say, what are the big rocks at home? And I try to get ahead at work and say, what are the big rocks at work? And sometimes when they clash, I try to make sure that the same entity doesn't have to pay every time. It's not a perfect science, but I try to say, hey, if I need to stay late on a Sunday and like do some different things, and that means I can't be at home, then that means maybe on a Friday or maybe a Monday afternoon that I make some room for home that shows some prioritization there and that helps things be a better environment there because people feel valued as well. So it's an ongoing thing, and almost every month something collides and we just don't do it well. And so we've had conversations about how do we give grace and how do I disappoint certain people in ways that they can handle, but we also talk through it and say, hey, this really didn't work or this didn't work. And I do the same thing with people at work and say, how do we do it best? And it's an ongoing process. It's not a, hey, you figure it out and you win. It's a, hey, we keep working at it and we keep spotting things ahead of time so that we don't sacrifice big rocks in either place if at all possible, and that we show everybody that they have value. For me, work is always intense. It's something that's constantly going in the back of my mind. And so creating space at home has actually been something I've had to build some intentional boundaries for. And the first thing is that my computer does not come out unless I've put a time limit on how long it's going to be out. So I will take it out to answer email, but if it sits on the table, then I'm going to go back to it. And so I'll say, hey, I'm going to take my computer out. Here's the things I need to get done. And then once they're done, I put it away. And so there are seasons where I can do that. And then there's other seasons where I stop at work and I come home and I just have to tell people, hey, I've got to knock some stuff out tonight and it's going to take me 2 or 3 hours. And so I go to a room in the house where there's a place to sit quietly and I get it done. But we always talk about patterns. And when an exception becomes a pattern in our home, then we start to talk about, well, how are we going to make that just the exception again instead of the pattern? Because in ministry and in any job you have, there's always going to be more work to do. And you can start cheating the system, so to speak. And you can be present for a couple hours and then everybody goes to bed and you decide, well, I'm going to stay up and answer email for 3 or 4 more hours. Well, you can get a lot done, but that's not sustainable because in the end, you're creating an expectation on one side of the other that isn't sustainable and you're the only one that gets caught in the middle. And so just really try to put some boundaries on some things. So there's time limits and that we watch for patterns and that exceptions are exceptions and that patterns we are intentional about. My travel comes in spurts. It's not like, hey, every month on this date I go here or there. It usually comes in a month where suddenly I'm gone to a conference and then maybe I'm doing a vision trip somewhere. And so it might be 2 weeks out of a month. And so we really work on the timing of those things if at all possible. And then every day, if at all possible, and most times it is, even if I'm overseas, we're on FaceTime in the morning. Because hellos and goodbyes are really important as a family. And so hello to the day, how are you doing? What are you heading into the day? How can I pray for you? And then at the end of the day, circle back, how did it go? What are some things that you would do different? What are some things that I can help you with? What do I need to be aware of when I come home? And then if those things aren't available, I kind of have a deal with the kids that if I text them and say, how was your day? They cannot give me a one-word answer. Because they'll say good. And I'm like, that you're a person of many words and that's not helpful at all. And so we've made a deal that if I say, same with me, how was your day? Then you say, hey, here was one good thing, here was one challenging thing, and here's one thing I'm looking forward to tomorrow. And out of those come about every decent conversation that we need to have while I'm gone. And then when we get home, I usually take each kid out for either coffee or ice cream and catch up with them. I think as far as work-life balance goes, something I would have realized earlier in my career is that balance is impossible, but rhythm is. And so there are going to be weeks where I am not a balanced person. Maybe I'm working more than I should, or maybe I'm having to deal with things on the home front more than I should. But over the course of a month, Am I building rhythms in my life that says, hey, the things that need to get done, they have their season and they have their moment. And I wish I'd known that earlier, because I felt like when I was younger, both in ministry, I was also in teaching, and I've also been in the real estate world. When I was younger, the tyranny of the urgent was the thing that pulled me all the time. Well, this thing is yelling the loudest, so it has to get done. Well, if that thing's yelling loud and it has to get done, then something else is going to realize, well, if I'm going to get done, I just have to yell louder. And pretty soon I had a really loud life, and I did not appreciate it, and I did not enjoy it. And so being able to say, hey, balance might not be possible on a weekly basis, but rhythm and season, if we can operate with those contexts, then we're probably going to be much more successful, and I'll be a lot happier and a much better person. I have one thing when it comes to balancing the priorities of work and life is, I think sometimes we make the mistake of going to work thinking it's a place where we will receive unconditional acceptance and unconditional love. And it's not a place that's built for that. The home is built for that as much as anything. And so when you go to work expecting it to be unconditional love and acceptance, you're barking up the wrong tree at the expense of the place that actually is supposed to give it. And that does damage to relationships. It puts you on a course that can put you in danger mentally and emotionally and even spiritually. And so it's one thing I wish I had been able to articulate a lot earlier, because I would have saved me a lot of heartache.